Hi, and welcome to the third episode of Farm to City.
अरे 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 क्या कर रहा है? इधर 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 हम बोल रहे हैं तेरे बीजू का।
उतला बोल रहा है?
हाँ, पक्षियों से तो हम खेत को बचा लेते हैं, पर इन घातक रसायनों से कैसे बचाएं?
मतलब?
देख बेटा, तू जो ये अंधाधुंध रसायन मिलाता है ना, मिट्टी की सेहत बिगड़ने लगी है। और जब माटी ही कमजोर पड़ जाएगी, तो उपज कैसे सेहतमंद होगी? हाँ? अरे पहले ऐसा नहीं था। पूछना अपने बड़े बुजुर्गों से, कैसे फसल लहलहाती थी, शुद्धता झलकती थी। हाँ, माटी भी तंदुरुस्त और लोग भी। अरे अब पहली वाली बात कहाँ?
पर अब तो सब यही डाले हैं।
सब नहीं, आज भी लाखों जागरूक किसान परंपरागत विधि से फसल उगा रहे हैं। खर्चा कम और उपज की कीमत भी बेहतर पा रहे हैं।
सच है?
रे बेटे, एक्सपीरियंस से बता रहे हैं, धूप में बाल सफेद नहीं किए हैं। हाँ।
ठीक है भाई, मैं भी आज से जैविक खेती शुरू करूंगा।
माटी से प्रेम की परंपरा है, परंपरागत खेती।
Today, we are talking about natural farming. Natural farming is a chemical-free farming method that works with nature instead of against it. There are 4 core principles of natural farming: Jivamrutha, Bijamrutha, Achadana, and Varaprasa. The key benefits of natural farming are zero external cost. It uses only local cow and farm resources, so input cost drops. Soil health. It increases microbes, organic carbon, and water retention. Less water. Mulching cuts irrigation needs by 30 to 50%. No chemicals. Healthier food, and there are no pesticide residues. This kind of farming is also climate resilient. The crops handle drought or flood better. The common crops in natural farming are paddy, millets, pulses, vegetables, fruits, and especially multi-cropping. Intercropping and bunt crops are encouraged. So let's listen to the interaction. Well, today in our studios we have Dr. Pamse M. Sangma, Assistant Director of Horticulture, Directorate of Horticulture, Shillong. Welcome to our studios, Doctor.
Thank you.
Well, let's start our episode today and let me ask you my first question. What exactly is natural farming and what are its basic principles?
When we say natural farming, it is a type of farming where we do not use any chemicals. In natural farming, we encourage the farmers to use inputs that are available in the farm, seeds that are grown traditionally, which are locally adapted to that area, grown using the local knowledge passed on from generations. We encourage them to use livestock. The waste of the livestock is recycled as inputs for the farming. So this basically constitutes natural farming with the main principles of recycling of the inputs, using on-farm available materials that reduces the cost, making the soil alive.
So as a layperson, if I may ask, what are the ingredients that make the soil alive?
When we say soil is alive, it is because of the soil microbes that are present in the soil. Microflora and fauna that supports the plant. So when there are beneficial microorganisms in the soil, they support the plants by making the nutrients available to the plants. So nutrients are available in the soil, but the plants, they cannot absorb as it is present in the soil. So these beneficial microorganisms, they convert nutrients into the form which the plant can absorb. And then these beneficial microorganisms reduce the population of pathogens in the soil that cause diseases. If we keep the soil alive by feeding the microorganisms, then the soil will be able to support the crop to grow and produce yield so that it will be productive.
That's interesting to learn how soil can come alive again. And now let's listen, how can we further soil health and fertility? So from a scientific perspective, how does natural farming improve soil health and soil fertility?
So in natural farming, we encourage practices like incorporation of biomass, organic matter into the soil. So this organic matter, when incorporated into the soil, it improves the soil structure and it improves the soil water holding capacity and it improves the organic carbon present in the soil. So these are all very important for crop growth. With respect to water holding capacity, if the soil has good water holding capacity, then it can support the plant with respect to the water needs. If the soil has enough organic carbon, then it can support the microbes in the soil, and it can also support the plants with respect to the nutrients that the plants needs. So in that way, the natural farming supports the soil.
It improves the soil health and soil fertility.
Yes.
All right. We can now learn about natural farming, helping farmers. In what way? Let's listen. So, can natural farming help farmers reduce their dependence on chemical fertilizers and pesticides? If so, how?
Natural farming, we have started in our state and implemented it only for 25-26. So it has been only 1 year. Based on 1 year, we cannot draw any conclusive result on that. So what we can say is that based on the natural farming states that are practicing natural farming like Andhra Pradesh and all, so from the experience we can see like since the farmers are encouraged to use those pesticides and all the other like inputs made in the farm itself. So their dependence on the chemical pesticides and fungicides and all produced outside is reduced because they are not using them. And then the efficacy of this own farm produced biopesticides and all is proven from those states which are practicing natural farming. But for our own state of Meghalaya, since it has been only a year since the implementation, so it's very early to draw conclusions.
Now, how does natural farming help in managing pests and diseases naturally without compromising on crop health?
So in natural farming, there is one principle that we stress, diversified crops. So the pests, they have preferences like us. They prefer certain crops and they don't prefer certain other crops. So in natural farming, since the crops is diversified, the population of the pests that is affected will be lowered automatically. And then another thing is we encourage the building up of insects which are like friends to the farmers, which feeds on those pests which damage the crops. So we encourage farmers to plant crops or other plants which attract those good natural enemies to the pest of the crops.
Wow.
So in that way, like when we build the natural enemies of the pests, so our aim is not to remove the pests completely. It is to keep them at a certain level that they do not cause economic damage to the crop or economic loss to the farmer.
Very interesting. Now, does a farmer experience a reduction in yield when shifting from a conventional farming to natural farming? And how can this transition be managed?
Now, when we are implementing the scheme, we have a plan for 6 years for conversion of a farmer's field to a natural farming agriculture system. So, in the first year, we do not encourage the farmers to bring all his land under natural farming.
Okay.
So, we advise the farmer to take a small plot in his farm to convert it into a natural farming so that he will develop the basic skills required. In the first year, we identify the farmers who are willing to practice this natural farming, and then we give them training and awareness and the kits which are required, and there are provisions in the scheme for some incentives to the farmers. So once they are proficient in the practices of natural farming, in how to handle, starting from the sowing of the seeds, selection of the seeds, sowing of the seeds, maintaining the soil health, harvesting of the crops, storing of the grains. So once they become proficient, they are advised to extend the area of farming. Natural farming, when we encourage the farmers to take up, they cannot do it in 1 year. So it is a gradual process which has been planned for 6 years on a farmer's field.
Very interesting. Out of curiosity, I want to ask, how does your office identify, because I'm sure you'll try to reach out to maximum number of farmers. But again, that is quite an impossible task. So how do you reach out to maximum farmers out there in the village?
So the Directorate of Agriculture and the Directorate of Horticulture, the District Agriculture Office in all the districts of Meghalaya and the District Horticulture Office. So in both of the office, we have Agriculture Development Officers and Horticulture Development Officers. So they are given the task of identifying the farmers because we have officers in every blocks, and for the blocks which we don't have officers, other officers are given in charge. So they're responsible for identifying the farmers who are willing to take up this natural farming. In that way, we cover all the blocks of Meghalaya in all the districts.
Yeah, because that was exactly my question. Like, how do you reach the maximum number of farmers and almost try not to miss out on any farmer,
Yes.
benefiting from these?
So I would like to inform you, like in the year 25-26, we had around 3,950 farmers registered in the first year itself. So this scheme will be continuing. When we identify a cluster for natural farming, we help them for 2 years. And then after that, we identify new clusters and it will be followed up for the 2 years. Like that. So 2 years, there will be given full support, including for the certification of their farm. So those amount that has to be paid for the certification bodies, all are provided by the government.
Yes, that's what I wanted to know. Like, you have maximum coverage and maximum reach to all the farmers, right to the remotest village.
Yes.
That was interesting to learn how farmers in the remotest area could be easily reached. Now, my question is, one major concern for farmers is the cost of cultivation. Is natural farming suitable for all crops, or are there particular crops where it works better?
So natural farming, it is for sustainable agriculture. So we have seen in our country, like now, our nation is self-sufficient with respect to food grains. Around 379 million tons was the record of the food grain this year, 25-26. So now we have the opportunity to explore other forms of agriculture. So when we look back at the Green Revolution in the 1960s and all, that time we used lots of fertilizers, we used lots of pesticides, we used the groundwater for irrigation. So it was depleted. So now we see Punjab as it is now. Different problems because of the pesticide that was used, that was consumed. Because once it's added, it is there in the environment and it takes a long time for it to degrade. And some, it takes even like 50 years and all, depending on the type of the pesticides and the chemicals that were used. So now our government is exploring ways for sustainable agriculture. So in that way, this natural farming, it comes to the picture where like we use all the sustainable. When we say sustainable, it means like we can use now while saving for the future. When we say about the natural farming, it is like location specific. Built for the location or particular area. So we cannot say like it will be suitable for all crops in a particular area because the crops, they have specific requirements for growth and all. So the natural farming, it is adapted for the local environment, for the local crops growing there. Certain crops which does not require more water, like for millets in certain areas. So we encourage them that can be grown without irrigation.
Okay.
And then because our Meghalaya is blessed to have rainfall almost throughout the year.
Yes.
If I may bring to your attention, like previously people people were practicing Jum cultivation and they didn't use any irrigation on that. So it is rain-fed agriculture. In natural farming also, we explore ways and means, like all those water holding capacity, improving the soil structure and all for retaining water. It is for that only, like so that we don't have to depend on irrigation and all. So those soil which can retain moisture and support the crop growth, and crops which do not require more water. Even like upland rice and all. It is like different from the lowland paddy areas. In lowland, paddies have to be submerged in water. Upland paddies are not submerged in water. So we explore for these different crops which have specific growing requirements. There are certain crops which are more adaptable to natural farming, if I may say, and some crops which will not be suitable for natural farming. But if we say like the traditional crops grown like not in monocropping, but is diversified crops, mixing different crops in a same plot of land. And one thing, 365 days green cover that is stressed in natural farming.
Okay. And what is that 365 days cover?
In a year, we have like 365 days. So when we do monoculture like rice and all, the crop is grown in a season. The rest of the months, the field remains fallow. But in natural farming, we encourage the soil never to be barren. We encourage, and since in natural farming, we do zero tillage or minimum disturbance to the soil so that the soil structure and the moisture is not lost, not disturbed. For 365 days, the soil will be covered in green crops.
Sounds very productive and high yield for the soil. We will hear about our beautiful Northeast and natural farming in its land. Now it's time to listen to it. Now, considering the unique climate and terrain of Meghalaya and the Northeast, how suitable is natural farming for our region?
To be able to answer that question, I think we have to wait for another 5 years till the natural farming is practiced in a large area, because we cannot draw conclusions from a small area. As you have rightly mentioned that our state is diverse and the terrain is also very diverse. So we have started natural farming in all the districts, and we have started in the blocks of different districts. So maybe after 3-4 years, we can draw conclusions from the natural farming farmers that are practicing in our state.
How can natural farming help in conserving soil, water and biodiversity?
With respect to biodiversity conservation, the seeds, they have the viability of maximum of 6 months or 1 year. Many of the seeds which are preserved by the farmers are lost when they are not grown, when they do not continue to grow that crops. So when we see the hybrid seeds that produce lots of yield per unit area, they are produced by the companies and the farmers have to buy them every year. But the seeds which are grown by the farmers, saved from generations to generations and handed down, they have to be grown so they can be continued, as the viability of the seeds is maximum. Like it decreases after 6 months, the viability will be like you will get 90% germination, it will decrease to 80%, 60%, 50%. It will reduce. The viability of the seeds reduces. So to maintain the diversity of the crop, since in natural farming we are growing different crops, we encourage growing mixed cropping, different crops in a same plot of land. After harvesting one crop, the next crop, or like side by side, we encourage. That's why the diversity of the crop is maintained. The farmers, they save the seeds. And on that note, we are trying to encourage the farmers' idea of the seed bank and all. We are trying to explore that so that the seeds will be available to the farmers.
Now, can natural farming make agriculture more resilient to climate change and extreme weather conditions?
The natural farming, when we are growing seeds that are passed on from generations, like one climate is never same. In every generation it is different.
Yeah.
So those seeds that were grown during just generations, they face those calamities, those climate, those drought conditions, those high temperatures, and there was natural selection in that seeds. The seeds that were more adaptable, the plants that adapted to that conditions, they got selected, they survived, and then the seeds, it got propagated and handed down to generations. So they are more adapted to the local climate. So when we say natural farming, we are encouraging the traditional seeds, growing crops using traditional knowledge. So it is more adaptable to climate change, and I think it is one of the important factors that we have to consider while facing climate changes like now, like extreme weather conditions, rain anytime, drought anytime. So those seeds which have been grown traditionally, they have already been grown like that in the previous generation without irrigation, facing high temperature, without any additional fertilizers or manures in the field. So those seeds are more adapted because they have been naturally evolved. They have naturally undergone selection because survival of the fittest.
Under harsh climatic conditions.
So they are more adapted for the changing weather climatic conditions that we are facing now.
What are the major challenges farmers face when adopting natural farming, and what kind of support do they need?
So the major challenge is the dissemination of information, I will say, since it is a new concept and it is recently introduced to the farmers. So we have already started by training the farmers. In natural farming, our aim is the farmers themselves are trained. There are farmers in a cluster. There are like 125 farmers in a cluster. So from a single cluster, we identify 2 farmers. They are called as CRPs or Krishi Sakis. So they will be trained in the practices of natural farming, and they will be responsible for training the other farmers in their cluster. The knowledge will be available to the farmers near them, among their peers, so that they can go to them anytime. So our aim is to equip the farmers, those who will be able to disseminate information to the other farmers. So first thing is the making the farmers proficient in the practices of natural farming. So that is the first.
That's very interesting.
Batem ni kedui tara ada iba ador shamplem. Hoy go, hoy go, hoy go. Kadang kasang kiwin kan bagak sing kadang sawa. Ladai kapertas nong batin yas nong macan marpa. Kadai kador bas nong hale kadai kador barba. Ladan mano bayam lese kadai. Hajiling o utay hangtay uslap hijar. Seriem kayo trumseng ng takamiyaw tan kalender. Bertas ang ukasi kaday kani masyong sitam. Kapting iday marang iday bantur kumlong yalam. Hoy go, hoy go. Baro kisam kasul jamurang baunang bertah. Kibriw ba shet shet kisang etrei haying sheta kikin narit kini hangtay hafel nawan letang uba ayuta uba dandor surban kang bertas na mukha si gaday gani masyong shetam pagting iday manang iday matur kumlong yaram.
Now it's time to listen and learn how KVKs and experts can help farmers. How can agricultural institutions, KVKs, and experts help farmers adopt natural farming scientifically and successfully?
KVKs and agriculture institutes, they have been identified as centers of natural farming. They have that local natural farming institutes where they identify farmers. So those farmers have to be growing their seeds using natural farming practices. So those KVKs and all, they are responsible for identifying the farmers who can be trained in the knowledge and practices of natural farming. And then these KVKs are responsible for training those farmers to make them proficient in the natural farming techniques, knowledge, and the preparation of different bio inputs. So they will be giving trainings and awareness to all the farmers that are selected. So this is the responsibility of the KVKs for conducting training and awareness program and for giving the first line of demonstrations in the farmers field.
Finally, what is your message to farmers who are considering natural farming and to urban consumers who want to support sustainably produced food?
With respect to farmers for natural farming, I would like to encourage the farmers to take up natural farming. It is a new thing, but as our government is encouraging, it is a flagship scheme of our department as well. So there are many provisions and many incentives for the farmers for the natural farming. So I would encourage the farmers to take this opportunity and take the provisions from the central and the state government for the natural farming and take up this natural farming. And for the consumers, I will say it is always best if we can get vegetables, grains and all which are not contaminated by pesticides and all. Because we know like these pesticides and chemicals, they have adverse effect on our health. So that is a known fact. So if the consumers support the farmers by buying their produce, those grown naturally and organic without using chemicals and pesticides, so it will be more beneficial for their health.
That's right. Now, how can young farmers be encouraged to take up natural farming as a viable business opportunity?
For the young farmers, since they are young, they are energetic and they have the capacity to absorb things quickly, so I would encourage them to learn the techniques of natural farming, take the opportunity of the schemes of the central government and the state government. So I would like to inform that the government has an outlay of more than 2,500 crores for natural farming, and they have objective to bring 1 crore farmers, 7.5 lakh hectares farming land into natural farming. So if there is a support from the government, the youth should take up this opportunity.
Yeah.
There will be definitely support because the government has laid out its objective clearly. So we can see that it is important to the government. Sustainable agriculture and the future of our generations are important to the government. That's why the government is taking this incentive and making it a flagship program. So I would encourage the youth to take up this opportunity.
Now, Dr. Pamse is so interesting to talk to, and I feel we can divert into so many other topics, concerning farming, but time is a constraint. And before we wind up, maybe I'll ask you the last question. What will be your last message to our listeners before we wind up this program?
So my message to the listeners will be like, in everything, we should take the best opportunity and make use of the opportunity that is given to us. So with respect to this natural farming, since the government has given us a good opportunity and the support, unconditional support from the state and the central government, so we should take up this opportunity and consider natural farming for the sustainability of our agriculture and the future of our children.
Okay, that's very beautifully said. Thank you so much, Dr. Pamse, for coming to our studios and giving us such important information. Thank you. That was a very insightful message. Well, listeners, we hope you have benefited a lot from the important message to our listeners by Dr. Pamse. We have learned a lot bringing this program to you. Hope you have learned quite a bit too. That was the 3rd episode of Farm to City. See you next week with the 4th episode of Farm to City.
प्रधानमंत्री किसान मान धन योजना
मिलेगा पेंशन का सहारा, कृषक ना होगा बेसहारा, जुड़ेगा खुशियों से नाता, कटेगा सुख से बुढ़ापा, सुरक्षित होगा अन्नदाता, सुरक्षित होगा अन्नदाता।
प्रधानमंत्री किसान मान धन योजना से लघु सीमांत किसानों का भविष्य होगा सुरक्षित
और 60 वर्ष की आयु से 3,000 रूपए मासिक पेंशन होगी सुनिश्चित।
55 रूपए से 200 रूपए की मासिक किश्त देकर प्रवेश कर सकते हैं। 18 से 40 वर्ष तक के किसान
इस अंशदायक योजना में सरकार देगी बराबर का योगदान।
सभी किसान भाई बहन इस योजना के लाभ के लिए जन सेवा केंद्र में जाएं
और अपना निशुल्क नामांकन कराएं।
प्रधानमंत्री किसान मान धन योजना, अन्नदाता के परिश्रम को संबल, पेंशन से सुरक्षित उनका कर। कृषि एवं किसान कल्याण मंत्रालय, भारत सरकार द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
This program is sponsored by the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare.